Okay, are we up and going?
We're up and going, and the recorder is working.
Cool. Hey, everybody, welcome. Dylan and Janelle are back for a third Thursday, but it's not quite the third Thursday. What is it, the fourth Thursday, the fifth
I think it's
Thursday?
the fourth Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted to get it so it lined up perfectly with the upcoming Geosteering World Cup, which, of course, everybody is here to hear about. Geosteering World Cup 2021 coming at you. And I guess as we jump into this here, so, summer's kind of coming to an end. I heard it actually might have snowed up in Calgary
In the mountains. Yeah.
in the
It's
mountains,
about
so
that
you
time
guys
of
can
year.
see snow. And as it comes to an end, this moves into my favorite season. And my favorite season because of basically three things. So it's fall. I love the leaves. I love the foliage. It's football season. And of course, it is the Geosteering World Cup. Ba-dum-bum-bum. So we're going to go ahead and walk y'all through like what's going to be in the Geosteering World Cup this year, why you should be in it, what the advantages are, and what's going to be different than last year.
Okay. No, I'm looking forward to it, Dylan.
Dang Skippy.
All right. Let's
Okay.
start by talking about our sponsors because we have some fantastic sponsors helping us out for this event this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So big shout out to Jackie Palmer, Ryan, and Sarah over at GeoVision. They're our diamond sponsors this year, and they work with us hand in hand on so many of our projects. So great to have them on board as usual. I'd also like to thank Will Hagen and the new Stratigraph geosteering team. I'm excited to be working with them as they start to kind of launch and get move Stratigraph from its traditional realm into this new space.
That's great. And this year's silver sponsor is Chinook Consulting Services. They're based out of Calgary, but they do steering services all around the world. So big thank you to Clean and Marius and the team there.
Yeah, it's always good. Chinook, I always love their LinkedIn images. Always see some good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I guess before we go any further, I would also like to say a big thank you to the team behind the scenes here. I know some of them are here with us today. So Eric and the Latina team for all the work that they've been doing to pull this event together, as well as Camila and Melina, who have been really working hard to make sure this is the best Geosteering World Cup that we've had so far.
For sure. All right.
All right. Well, let's get started. So Dylan, tell me, what is the Geosteering World Cup for those that might be new to it this year?
Okay, so the Geosteering World Cup is the preeminent global event for geologists. It's I don't even know where to start with it. I guess I'll start right here. It's a touchstone that every geologist in the world can reach to and have something in common with. So it can be your discussion around the water cooler. Um, Everywhere you go, people have the opportunity to be involved with this Geosteering World Cup. It also gives us the opportunity for all of our geosteers to come together and test their mettle to really see who's the best, who has the skills to pay the bills, as they might say. And of course, it's always a good opportunity to support and or heckle your friends who might be competing in the event. So last year, as you can see there, we had 131 different people in the event, and it was awesome. You can see all the wells that were being steered, including one robot that went a little bit rogue there at the end at fault number 3 and decided to go back and check out surface. But it was just a powerful and unique opportunity to see everybody steering the same wells, kind of see how the decisions were being made, what worked, what didn't. Um, yeah, so that's the Geosteering World Cup.
For me, anyway, this was my favorite event last year that we offered. Actually, really my favorite event ever that we've offered. To be able to have so many people, like really talented people in the same place at the same time. Even though it was online, the energy was still huge. Like it really surprised me what a big deal it turned out to be. It was so much fun. People really got into it, and I know it's going to be even better this year. I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. And especially, I mean, against the background of last year, right? Like 2020
Mhm.
was not the greatest year for any number of different reasons. And so, yeah, it not only was, I agree, my favorite event of all time, and against that background, it shines like I don't know, like the Hope Diamond or the Sun or Beetlejuice. I don't know, like a big old
So
bright.
really good. No, absolutely. So I think this year will be even better. So like Dylan said, this is not our first year running it, obviously. Last year was the first time we ran it worldwide online, but we've been running it for a few years now. Let's see who we've had win previously.
Yep. Yeah. So this is our Hall of Fame here. And as Janelle mentioned, though the World Cup happened for the first time last year, we've been running the Geosteering Championship since 2018. And so, like, you look at the team that pulled it in 2018, a lot of familiar faces, including our very own Stephen Clark. 2000, that was at the user meeting, right, down in Houston. 2019 also was at the user meeting. And despite all of the faults that he had in his interpretation, he crushed it. And then last year, of course, we had our champions. So we had our global champion, and then we also had our regional champions. So those of you guys there in North America might recognize Pat Tobin as he flashes his Apple Watch that he won for being the North American champion. I'm really curious to see, are we going to have any back-to-back? Are we going to have defending champions at the global or regional level? Janelle, do you think that, are we going to be able to bring the World Cup trophy back to North America where it belongs?
We did have some really good competition, especially out of Australia. I don't know. I think that Robin is going to be pulling hard to try and get it over to Australia. But we do have a really strong number from North America this year. So a lot of people vying for the championship from North America. So hopefully we can keep it here. I mean, hopefully it comes specifically to Canada, but I guess North America as a whole is okay.
We're all one big happy family up here in the north. But of course, the Latina team's really strong as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah, excited to see how it plays out for sure.
Yeah. I think we had two of them in the top 5 last year, so they're going to bring in a good team, I think.
Well, and I mean the last year the contestant numbers were dominated by North America. This year there is a lot more people from all over the world in. So I'm hopeful that we can at last moment get just flood the entire marketplace, if you will, with North American registrants to just kind of tilt everything a little bit more in our favor.
I hope so, but I know that all the other teams are all the other countries are telling their teams the same thing. So we'll see what happens.
Team us.
All right. So what's new for 2021, Dylan? I know there have been some changes. What can we expect to see?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be bigger, it's going to be better, and I think it's going to be even more fun than last year. So bigger. So last year we had 131 registrants in there. This year we're going to be over 300, easily over 300, potentially with maybe make the 400 mark. So there's going to be a lot more people in there, which obviously just makes things better. It's also going to be more realistic, and we'll get into the details of this later, but we're going to be looking at the economics of your well, and we're also going to be looking at what it means when you actually drill a well. Like drilling a straight well is faster and better than drilling a porpoising roller coaster well. Sim Roller Coaster was a great game. I loved it, but it's not necessarily what you want to show your drilling engineer in the morning. And finally, more fun. So last year it started, right? Jackie and GeoVision, they did some really cool videos where they did a Gatorade dump when one of their people made the finals. And this year, I've already heard at a few different service companies and operators that they're going to have watch parties. And I've heard even a couple of people, I don't know if this is true, that are going to be doing, what is it called? Instead of fantasy football, fantasy Geosteering World Cup, and that there's already a drinking game based on how many times I say the greatest ever or something like that. So super excited to see how that turns out. It should be an amazing amount of fun.
I think so. I think so, especially if they are doing fantasy geosteering leagues. All right. So I guess the question everyone wants to know is how do I actually win the Geosteering World Cup?
So for sure. At the end of the day, to win the Geosteering World Cup, it's going to be based on your in-zone percentage and your ROP. So this is similar to last year, but the ROP is going to be a little bit more complex in that you're going to be penalized, if you will. I mean, not penalized, it's just the reality. If you have to slide, you get a reduced ROP. And so the same thing is going to be true in this event. And I'll go into the real details of it, the nitty gritty here in a little bit. There you can see the Geosteering World Cup. We actually have it. It is in Houston under lock and key behind security lasers and our very own security protector who's kind of scary, Melina. So nobody will be getting their hands on that until it's time to be given out to the actual champions.
Yeah, I think we can guarantee that.
You thought I wasn't going to say it, and I was totally going to say it.
I'm glad you did. Shout out to Melina for not only keeping the World Cup very safe, but for making sure that this event will run very smoothly.
For sure. Death to anybody who tries to take it.
So we have a new category as well this year, Dylan. So can you please tell me a little bit more about the best in class well?
For sure, for sure. So there's going to be two things. So like everybody who's competed in another event, some knows that there is the overall champion, right? Like that wins the actual tournament. But then sometimes just for fun, we'll have like like longest drive or closest to the pin, or most exciting dunk or something like that, right? Just like the best individual performance in a particular instance. And so that's what the best in class well is going to be. And so when we say best in class, what we mean is most economical. So we're going to be, as we're drilling our wells, the Rogii forecast production the Rogii forecast production forecasting tool will be actually modeling the production of the wells that we're drilling and comparing that to the cost to generate economics. And then I'll let you read the next one there.
Okay. So at halftime, we'll be announcing the winner of the Dylan Miner Memorial Best in Class Trophy.
Yep. Super excited.
Dylan, did you Dylan, did you know that you have to like pass away to have a trophy, like a memorial trophy named after you?
Well, I mean, I've always really wanted to be a legend in my own time, and they told me I could name it anything I wanted. They said I could do anything I wanted, so that's what I wanted to do.
Well, I think whoever wins the Dylan Miner Memorial Best in Class Trophy will be very pleased with that because it is a big accomplishment.
For sure. I will certify you for forever if you win it. So let's kind of go into what we mean by what we're going to be judging this best in class on. So it's going to be basically ROI, right? Revenue minus costs. So your costs are going to be made up of two different components, your drilling costs and your completions costs. Drilling costs are going to be basically based on your average ROP. And of course, ROP is going to be heavily dependent on how many times you slide. The more you slide, the lower your ROP will be. Now, the next one, this is pretty complex, but basically, as we're drilling this out, all the data is going to be going into forecast. And so there's going to be, if you are able to drill your entire well in zone, you'll be able to push out every stage and get maximum production. However, there will be other zones where you'll be out of the true target zone, but you'll still be able to get off your frac. You'll still be able to complete. You'll just get reduced production. Then there's going to be a third area where if you get into this area, you can't complete there at all. And this is very realistic. So if you're in that area, you're not going to be charged for that stage because you just can't get it off. However, you're going to lose a lot of production. So we're trying to make it as realistic as possible. So then what's going to happen is your revenue then on the day of the event, we're going to have what we call IP Rogii, which is basically going to be like a 10-year production curve. And it's going to be, we're going to multiply that times whatever the WTI price is of the day, and that will be able to determine your revenue. And then it's just going to be revenue minus drilling costs. So if oil is up on the day of the event, drilling costs, and you make some mistakes in drilling, you might be able to survive it. If we have a dip that day, well, we better drill really, really efficiently. This is just the way the patch goes.
I'm excited for it. I think it'll be an exciting way of judging some of these wells. So yeah,
for sure. And it's just a side event, right? Like the actual event is going to be the two different wells that are going to be combined together, and it's just going to be the end zone percentage and the average ROP. But this is for that special trophy.
A little extra. Named after Dylan, who thankfully has not passed away.
As far as we know. Like, coming to you from the ether.
So maybe we should have started with this, but I guess this is pretty key. When is the Geosteering World Cup 2021?
Well, so the World Cup, it's going to be happening September 15th, and it's going to be running this year. Remember, last year we had a semifinals and a finals. And what we decided is, with everybody being so busy, I mean, because we're booming right now as an industry, right? So what we decided is we didn't want to take up any more time, and we didn't want people to be afraid to compete because they didn't know if they would have enough time. So it's in Central Daylight, actually. It'll be running from 10:30 to 1 p.m., basically Houston time. So this will allow everybody from all of the regions around the world to be able to compete at the same time.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, that's ideal. So hopefully that time slot works for you. And, it's the mornings, we thought it'd be best. Some of you, it might be middle of the night, depending on where you are, but hopefully you are still able to join us. This was the time slot that we've thought fit everyone the best. So hopefully it works for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the reality. There's 24 different time zones. Well, there's more than that, but it's a big old world, and everybody has, their own thing. So we're trying to find one that works for as many of our competitors as possible.
All right. So speaking of around the world, how do you register? What region will you be placed in?
Yeah. So last year we had 6 of the 7 continents, and basically broken into 4 regions. So this year we'll have the North American region, which we just consider to be USA and Canada. We'll have the Latin American region, the Europe and the Eurasian region, as well as the Middle East, Oceania, Asia, and Africa region. Now, Janelle, you know what my hope is. Last year we had 6 continents.
Does
This year,
anyone out there know a geosteer living in Antarctica?
I know for a fact, because Antarctica was my research area, that they have geologists down at Palmer Station, McMurdo Station, and at South Pole Station. And that's just from the United States. So we got to be able to find a geologist that's out there to get them to join. I don't care if they've never seen star steer before in their life. I will personally train them to make sure that they can compete and we can get all 7 continents to be
Please
competed in
help
there.
us out.
Yep, for sure. And so what these 4 regions mean is there will be an overall global champion, the Geosteering World Cup champion, but then there will be regional champions from each of these 4 regions. And they'll be getting the prize. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit.
Sure. So how do we actually go about competing?
Well,
How do I become a competitor?
Step one is to register. So if you haven't registered, make sure you do, because I don't think we'll cap it, because look, we've set everything up to scale pretty well. But I mean, if we hit 400, there's a chance that we'll cap it. So please register now, register early, though the final day of registration will only be a week before the event. The other thing that we're going to need, of course, is a PC that has consistent internet access. Once again, this is going to be run using StarSteer, and we're going to be hosting it on the Solo cloud. So though Solo runs super, super lean, if you're in a place where the internet cuts out for like 10, 15 minutes at a time, by the time it turns back on, you might have had about 7 or 8 different data pushes. And hopefully you were in zone when you push, because you're drilling blind. Access to StarSteer. So most of you guys are already using StarSteer, or if you're one of those few unlucky operators out there that still just haven't been able to move over into StarSteer, first off, my sympathies. Second off, call your account owner and let's get this changed. But third, if you need to get StarSteer in your office so you can do this, or you need to get it at home so you can do it, just reach out, put this in your registration, and we will supply you an activation code for StarSteer so that you're able to get into it and you make use of the trainer to practice ahead of time. Last option would be, if for whatever reason you can't install it, we also have a few virtual StarSteer set up that you'll be able to log into one of our virtual desktops and run it from there. Now, the final thing,
Sorry, Dylan, go ahead.
No, you got it. You got it.
So I was just going to say, regardless of whether you have StarSteer loaded, or perhaps you do have a StarSteer license, but it's going to be used by someone out in the field right now, no problem. Please do reach out to us. We still want you to be able to compete.
For sure. Now, the last thing you need is, of course, skills, right? And so just the reality of it, we're just a few weeks out from the event, and I mean, our support is great, and most of you guys are used to our Janelle and mine and the rest of the team's dulcet tones by this point, but we don't have the ability to train people from scratch at this point. So you got to have some skills, or you got to be willing to learn yourself in the next few weeks. The exception, of course, is if you're in Antarctica, in which I've already promised you that I will personally teach you, no matter what time zone that they might happen to be in. I can't even remember what the time zone is down there.
No, I'm not sure, but along that note there, we did just get a note or a question here from Starla. Starla's wondering if there's a disadvantage to the few that don't use StarSteer. I mean, it will be run in StarSteer, so if you're not familiar with it, obviously it'll be a little bit tricky because you might not be overly familiar with where the different buttons are. But we will talk about that here coming up, how you can practice so that you're not seeing StarSteer for the first time on the day of the event.
For sure, and Starla, skills transfer no matter what software you're using, right? Like if you can steer, you can steer, right? So I mean, last year the Geosteering World Cup champion touched StarSteer for the first time 3 weeks before the event, right? And he didn't just win, like he set the bar from day one on. So it's certainly not only possible to compete, but to compete and triumph. you just have to be able to jump into StarSteer now, run through the videos, run through the training, and just really get comfortable with it.
So we actually had a couple people in the top 10 who were new to StarSteer. I think they're StarSteer converts, but they were new to it at the time.
Yeah, and once again, if you're at an operator that won't let you use StarSteer, reach out to us and let's see if we can fix this egregious error.
So we did also get a question from John. He was asking, he was surprised, I think, to hear that there was internet in Antarctica. And yes, there definitely is, because there's a lot of big research stations. I have no idea how quality that internet is, but they definitely do have internet.
Hey, so when I was down there, I mean, we had internet on our icebreaker floating in the Gerlach Strait. And that was in, I'm going to age myself out a little bit here, but that was in 2008. So at this point, Team Elon, we got Starlink, and I think that there's a few others like that are bringing high-speed internet everywhere. So for sure, they got it.
Definitely. All right, so this actually, Starla, will answer a little bit more of your question here. How do I prepare for the World Cup, especially if I, regardless of whether or not I'm a StarSteer user, there are going to be some things that I recommend that you practice ahead of time.
For sure. So, I mean, the number one thing is to be familiar and competent with what we call the stratigraphic steering method, right? The stretching and squeezing to be able to correlate and be able to determine where you actually are relative to the type well. Where are you within zone? But in addition, in StarSteer, and this is going to be a key thing because this is how you are telling your drilling engineers where you want them to drill, is getting familiar with the TLT, the target line tool. And that's what you're seeing here in this video. So this is something that you move around in a graphical user interface, and it allows you to be able to tell the drilling team, which is us, where you want to drill. So what you'll actually do is you'll position that target line tool, and that extended trajectory line that you see right there, that will be what the next stand drills along. Now, of course, you can see that as we move it around, there's going to be a lot of sliding going on. So the way that the sliding in ROP is going to work is that if you slide during the period that you're sliding, you will get a reduction of your ROP by a predetermined coefficient. So if you're sliding a lot, you're going to get reduced ROP the whole time. If you're just making mild adjustments, right, like drilling a really good well, you're only going to have your ROP reduced for a very small section of the well. So anyway, so the other thing is the trainer simulator that we will be providing to all the competitors will go up. I believe it should be up this weekend, but if not, it'll be up early next week. And that will allow you, that'll be something that's always on. And you'll just go ahead and you'll log into it with your StarSteer. And when you go in there, the data will be constantly being pushed. And so like you might join and find yourself in the middle of a well or at the beginning or approaching TD. But as soon as it reaches TD, it will just reset and then you'll go back to landing in the curve.
Yeah. And just to build on that, Dylan, I think that that is key. So even if you are a super StarSteer user, I would still recommend that you use the trainer and simulator at least once, because that threw off a lot of competitors last year. They knew StarSteer really well, so they just showed up to the event, but then the simulator, it took them 2 or 3 data pushes to get the hang of it, and by then, unfortunately, they had lost a good chunk of the well. So I would highly recommend at least logging in once. And just seeing how it works, so that it's not the first time you see it on the day of the event.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even those of you who are driving, might as well be driving, drilling up in the Bakken on those rocket ships that they have going up there, 800 feet per hour, I've heard, right? Like there, you're getting a stand every 30 minutes. You're going to be getting a stand, I believe, every 90 seconds here, right? So it's just, I would say the number one thing is to be able to get to the point where you can look at the data, analyze the data, and then move that target line tool to the appropriate position under these time constraints. Because we don't actually have time, both us or y'all, to do this over the space of a couple days. So the whole thing will be 2 wells in the space of just a few hours. So I would say that's it. Just getting comfortable enough with the mouse movements and the muscle memory that you can look at those image logs if they're there, understand what the image logs are telling you, look at the correlation in the vertical track stretching and squeezing, looking at the grids or whatever other data that we might be giving you, and be able to drill it out.
Absolutely. All right, so we've had a few questions here. I'll run through them, Dylan. I don't know if they're showing up on your screen or not. Alejandro is asking, Oh, at what deviation from trajectory does the sliding start for when you're doing the grading? Do we know that at this
Yeah,
moment, or will it
yeah,
be in the
yeah, we do.
pre-slide package?
Yeah, so it's the way if you've ever used the target line tool and to do any like well planning and star steer, you'll see that when it creates it, it always follows the same process, which is slide, rotate, slide, right? So like if you're looking at the image that's on here, the little cartoon that we have running, what's actually happening there is it's rotating at the, or excuse me, sliding at the beginning, then it will rotate, then it will slide. So anything above like pure rotation, you'll start to get that reduction by that coefficient. But so it's not going to be just a situation where you just have a trajectory and then the next stand gives you another trajectory. It's you'll actually have sub-survey points in between it. And those sub-survey points will show you where the actual slide is. So if you're sliding hard, let's say you miss you've gotten out of zone, you realize it, and you're going like a submarine, dive, dive, dive to get back down into zone. You're going to be sliding for a much longer section to get to the point where you can rotate, and so that will be the penalty. So as far as the you'll either be sliding or not sliding. It's very binary, but it will the length of time that you slide, just like reality, the length of time that you'll actually slide will be greater the larger change that you need to make in the inclination of your wellbore.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a few other questions, but this one builds on Alejandro's question, so I'll ask this one next. So first, thanks Alejandro for that question. John is asking, is there a 5-degree build limit on the targeting, and do tiny adjustments penalize for sliding as much as a big slide would?
Yeah, it's a great question, John. Thank you very much. There will indeed be a cap, right? Because for both, I mean, we got to push casing here, right? Like, I'm not going to be there when the company man finds out he can't push casing because I threw a 7 in his lateral. And also, of course, you always run the risk of having production limitations if you got some sumps down there. You end up with cuttings building up. Like, it's bad news bears. So we will be applying a cap. I'm not. Because I maybe have a bit of a blabbermouth, I won't get to actually see the model answers and solutions or know the caps until the day of the event, which is probably for the best. But there 100% will be a cap. Now, to your second part of your question, does like the most minute slide penalize you as much as a massive slide? And the answer is no. A small slide will only take, I mean, during the period of slide, you're sliding, so it will cost you the same amount. But the amount of distance and measure depth that will be required for a very small, like a minute adjustment, is it relative to like a massive slide is going to be very different. So the penalty will only apply to that small section, right? So if you're, you make this very small slide, you're going to be able to accomplish it in just a few feet. Where if it's going to be an aggressive slide, it may take, 3/4 of a stand. So no, you will be I don't like the word penalized because it's just the reality. If we need to slide, we can't rotate. It's just the definition of it. But you will be sliding for a longer section of that segment to be able to accomplish what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Dylan. And John agrees, Dylan, that we should not be showing you the answer key ahead of time. So.
I just get a little excited. I think of myself, for you Harry Potter fans out there, I always kind of feel like in the Goblet of Fire at the Quidditch World Cup, that I'm not Barty Crouch. I'm the other guy who used to play for the Bees as a beater, and I just get too excited. I can't be trusted.
So look at that secret. Karma here has a question as well. Is the ROP coefficient tied to the DLS?
Correct. Yep.
Or is it
Yep.
constant?
It's tied to the DLS, and so but what you'll see is, and you can do this, all of you who already have star steer, when you get your sample star steers out there, if you just go in and you use the target line tool, when you look at the surveys that come out of it, you don't just get like a survey every 94 feet or every 100 feet. You'll actually see that there's like 4 or 5 different survey points. So there'll be one that's your starting point. There'll be one that is your ending of your slide. Then there'll be a rotation, and then there'll be another slide, which kind of like takes you. I'm not breakdancing here. I feel like I am badly, but like as we make it better to look here, you'll just see that you'll have your slide at the beginning, your rotation, and then your slide. And so it's the DLS during that survey point that is for the slide that will have the reduced ROP applied to it.
Okay. Coefficient will increase with DLS.
No. If there's a deal, so you have a DLS when you're rotating, you have a DLS of 1. if you don't have a DLS of 1, that means that you're sliding. Now,
Okay.
you might be sliding for a longer or shorter distance, but during that period of slide, that's when you'll see the reduction.
Okay. Karma says that explanation was good. She's got it. Thank you.
That means I've
We
got
got
good
a
karma
question.
today. Dad jokes.
We got a question from John. Yes, you will leave the extend trajectory on. And Todd is just asking when we'll be told what plays we're steering. I think that will be coming up in a little bit, Todd.
I didn't hear that one. What was it?
He's asking when will they be told if when will they be told what plays will be part of the competition? What will the 2 wells be?
That's the question I wish I knew. We'll certainly know before the event. There'll actually be a program that's put out. They'll be pretty cool. It's kind of like a football program or basketball, like when you go to a game, and it'll have some information about the plays, like the tools that you're going to use, the champions from previous years, and of course our lovely, lovely sponsors.
Awesome. Okay, I think we're all caught up. Yeah, I think we're all caught up. Okay. Please keep the questions coming in.
Cool.
Oh, I do. Sorry, one more just came in. Sorry, Michael, I spoke too soon. So Michael just had one more question on that topic. The winner is determined by the percent in zone and ROP. Could you go into the formula for how these values are used or weighted? Is it more important to be in zone or to drill fast?
So last year, what we found was that in looking at the data, it was more important to be in zone, right? That was the most important thing. And obviously, it varies depending on the play that you're drilling. So this isn't something that's static. So if you're in an area that like being out of zone is all kinds of bad news bears, then obviously in zone percentage matters. If you're in an area where the zone is just kind of like, I don't know, it's a preferred area, but like we can just pretty much rotate, it'll matter less. And so the actual, like last year, it was 75% in zone percentage, 25% average ROP based on, which was a ratio of the maximum ROP possible to the average ROP that the competitor got. This year, that may vary a little bit depending on the basin that they choose.
So I think we'll know more once we have a bit more information on the formation.
Once they share it with me, jeez.
They'll share it soon, hopefully. No, I know that it's all ready to go, so you guys will know here soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so once we're done and the results have been tallied, what is going to be public? Like what if I'm having a really rough day or I am actually live drilling in the back there? I have 3 rigs going and I just halfway through the Geosteering World Cup I had to bail and so my well isn't great perhaps. Is someone going to see that data and is it going to be bad?
Yep. I mean, and like, I mean, we're all supposed to be super tough and invincible, but like, that's probably the question I get the most often, right? Like I'm kind of the face of the franchise for the Geosteering World Cup, and people come to me with that question more than any other question. And so what I always tell everybody is like, we are not in the business of making anybody look bad, right? Like that is outside of the robots. I will trash those robots every time they screw up. But as far as our humans, but whether they're clients or just future clients, we're only in the game, in the business of making you guys look good. So if you have an off day, nobody's going to know but you, unless you tell somebody or something like that, obviously. But for the rest of you, we'll actually have some information that will be put out. So except for the top 10 competitors, we will never publicly release your information. The top 10 competitors, assuming that you guys are willing to let us do it, we will be marketing you. We'll be throwing you all over things. I'll hopefully have you in for webinars and all other kind of cool things that are both good for the Rogii brand, for our sponsors brand, and for your personal brand, and maybe the company you work for. The other thing that we will have out there is, and of course you personally will know your rank and your score. The other thing that we'll be doing though is a company's overall rank. So we will not tell anybody at your company even their average score, but we will tell them where they rank. And so if you get a few different people in from your company and they just want to know like where they ranked. I mean, I think that if you're a service company, being able to say that you rank #1 in the world probably is a pretty amazing tool to put onto your marketing things. Even if you're 2nd or 3rd or 4th in the world, that's probably pretty good. If you're 30th in the world, well, you just put that in your pocket and you don't tell anybody.
And you get ready for 2022.
Yeah, 2022, train harder, play the Rogii music. We'll do the same thing for operators as well, assuming that they're interested. We'll be able to tell them where they ranked in the group of operators.
Please, if that's what you're concerned about, please don't let that hold you back. It's just fun. It's just super fun. And then if you want to make it public, then you can.
Yeah. I mean, and like I think Janelle mentioned it earlier, but like if you do well, I'll tell you what. Like if you ever look at my CV, at the top of it, it says founder of Geosteering World Cup, and I guarantee if I'd won it, it would say Geosteering World Cup champion 2020. So
100%. 100%.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of which, so I mean, obviously the biggest prize for winning the Geosteering World Cup is bragging rights, but let's talk about the actual prizes here.
Yep, for sure. So everybody who competes the day of the event will receive a certificate of our participation. You know, it's something that you can print out and frame if you want. It'll be a PDF with your name on there, you know, in the event. But above and beyond that, the top 20% of competitors will get a similar certificate, but there'll be just like, basically, I think it's going to be like a badge on there that says that you're in the top 20% of the world, which is in and of itself pretty impressive. And then finally, the top 10 competitors, they'll on their certificate, they will actually receive it, and there will be their actual rank. So it'll say global number 1, global number 2, global number 3.
Well,
And I guarantee you, that's one of those that will also be, that won't just be something you can print out. That will actually be shipped to you as a document that you can then frame and put up in your office.
for all of your colleagues to see every single day and remind them how you did it.
The next time that grouchy old geophysicist comes and tries to argue with your geosteering interpretation, or your drilling engineer is giving you crap, you just be like, scoreboard. Janelle, that's what
So
you do.
actual prizes.
If you're whooping somebody's butt and they start talking mess, you just point at the scoreboard.
That's right. That's right. It has its benefits.
Mm-hmm. I guess also the champions prizes. So the regional champs will all be getting an Apple iPad, and the overall champ will get bragging rights. They'll get the trophy, and they get an iPad Pro.
Absolutely. And we'll paste your name all over everywhere so everyone knows that you won, unless you really don't want it. But
yeah. And then in which case, I mean, we had a few people last year who finished in the top. Actually, we had one person last year who finished in the top 10, but his company wouldn't. I don't even know if it was a he actually. Their company wouldn't let them share their name. So I think they were, I can't even remember. We had to choose a pseudonym for them. I think it was like Mystery or something like that.
So you always have that option. All right. So it sounds like fun. You all want to join. You can't wait. You're ready to practice. How do you register?
If you go to GWC, Geosteering World Cup, gwc.rogii.com, there's the information there, and the registration link can be found there as well. If you have any questions, you can always go to worldcup@rogii.com. And I guess if you happen to be at rogii.com, keep in mind that Rogii Tech will be going down. It's in November, right, Janelle?
November 3rd.
Yep. So you know, it's the largest geosteering convention in the world. I think we're going to have 10 different presenters and a panel that's going to talk about like geosteering in the modern age, and how that with all the machine learning tools that are come out, how that complements and competes with us. So and of course, it's the preeminent networking opportunity for everybody in the operational geosteering space, because as I tell my service companies, it's all the people you need and none of the people you don't.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be a good event too. Just really quickly, so you guys know, this sort of touches on the question from Todd earlier. There will be 2 wells, one conventional and one unconventional, because we have competitors from all over the world. You know, here in North America, a lot of our clients use Starsteer in unconventional plays, but globally, we have a lot of conventional plays being drilled with Starsteer. So we want to make it fair for everyone. So everyone has to drill 2 wells, one conventional and one unconventional. Depending on which one you're drilling, there'll be different tools and logs.
Absolutely. It's a not different tools and different challenges, right? Like if you're in a conventional well and you're targeting some sort of carbonate, obviously total gamma is almost useless. All I can do is tell you you're not in zone. And if you happen to want a sub spot, like a sub target within that carbonate, there's nothing you can really do. So though once again, I haven't seen it. Last year we had resistivity curves, we had density curves, we had image logs. Yeah. So I would say one thing, if in your normal day-to-day, you don't ever really use image logs, go ahead and just like at least turn on right click on type wells gamma, and just do a, what's the word I'm looking for? A dynamic image log.
Yeah, sorry,
And
a dynamic image log. I was talking over you when you said that.
yeah, I talk too much. That's why it's hard to not run into me. But real quickly, when you do that, like at the very least, you should be understand that a frown is down, a smile is up, and to be able to just look at it and be able to understand what you're seeing there. You don't need to be able to calculate the bed dip from it, though that would be powerful, but you should be able to tell by looking at an image log, am I cutting up or down in section?
Play another additional tool to help you steer.
For sure.
So just before we wrap up here, what does the data have to say? So we did a look back on 2020, Dylan. What came of that?
Yeah, so we actually, it was pretty cool. So we partnered with a think tank in Norway, and we actually published a paper on the results from last year, and then I presented them at ERTEC. So in general, what we're really trying to see is, because I mean everybody who steers, we were all trained differently. We all kind of have this organic geosteering techniques that we put together that vary depending on who we're working with and all kinds of other things. And we're always so busy that it's really hard for us to determine like what are the best practices. Are there best practices, or everybody doing their own thing? Is that the best? So what we were able to do is look at it and be able to try to find some things that correlated with success. And so I don't know, some of you guys who may be at the talk might have seen it there. The paper is also available through AAPG and ERTEC, so you can check it out. But what we're doing this year is we're trying to even dig deeper into it. So all of you that have been registered, you'll be getting a really quick survey which is like 5 questions on there, and just asking a few questions about your background going into the World Cup. Everything, all your answers will be 100% confidential. So please answer and just be as honest as you can. And we only look at the data in aggregate. We're not going to be looking at any individual's piece of information. So there's just some questions about the number of wells that you steered, how familiar you are with the target line tool, image logs, and a few other questions. So we'd love it if you guys could respond to that survey and let us know it. And then the other thing we're doing this year is we're going to be looking at high resolution decision making. So like as the data is coming in, we'll be able to look in aggregate at how people are responding to different structural inflection points, whether they be faults or syncline, anticline, rollovers, or just a mild change in dip. How do people react to it? And hopefully we'll be able to come out of that with even stronger correlations about what are some of the things that work best or work less best, or I guess that's worst for us.
That would be great. So yeah, like Dylan said, if you could please fill out that questionnaire, it just helps the academic world understand a little bit more about how geosteering works. Okay. All right, Dylan, this is all you.
Yep, C4PO, about to be C5PO this year. So I don't know how many robots are going to end up in it, but basically this is the rise of the machines. And so the idea, there's a lot of people out there who are making automatic geosteers and geosteering assistants, and different kinds of squiggle matchers. So what we're trying to do is allow everybody who has one of these tools to come together and steer against the best of the world. And of course, humans are going to whoop their butt, as it always happens. We're capable of so much more than these machines are at this point, but it's still interesting to kind of see where it's at, and it helps them kind of train their tools. So that will be something that will be going on, and at the very least, it'll be comic relief.
Well, so Karma actually knew this was coming. Karma asked if this was coming literally as we pulled this up. She was concerned that C3PO might be taunting us on social media. So yes, as you can see, Karma, the answer is yes. But John, not to worry, I have faith in you that you will be able to beat out the bots.
Yeah. Battle of the bots.
Yeah.
Battle against the bots.
All right.
Are you ready to run or drill your well? Yeah. So drill, baby, drill. Any questions left? We'll hang out and answer as needed.
So if you didn't have a question, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to see you on September the 15th. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, if you have any questions, please drop them in here and we will answer them.
Yep. And if you're in North America, tell your friends, let's get more registrants in there. I want the North American numbers to just drown out everybody else. I mean, literally everybody else. So tell your friends, and once again, you don't even have to be an experienced geosteer to jump in because it's just fun. If you're a geologist, a geophysicist, and God forbid, even an engineer, feel free to go jump in, test your hand. If you're an engineer and you beat your geosteers, imagine the bragging rights. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
And if you're a geosteer and you have a particularly persnickety drilling engineer, feel free to invite them in there. Since they always think they can do our job anyway, let's give them an opportunity to prove themselves.
So, that Dylan, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. I'm only a little bitter.
There's no questions in here yet.
Cool. Well,
Dylan, I
think,
guess that means we answered everything.
yep, I hope so. It looks like people are starting to leave. Is there something new there from Starla?
Oh, Starlet actually asked earlier if we knew what formation we were talking, so I'm sorry, Starlet, I just saw that question right now, but I know it was answered earlier, so hopefully that worked for you.
Yep. Yeah, the information will be released to everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
Mamie, thank you so much. We're excited too. Thanks for joining, and I hope that it goes well for you.
cool. And anybody who wanted to make it here but like wasn't able to make it, if you happen, we'll be of course putting it out. This will be on YouTube. So if you happen to know any friends who are, you might be able to talk into joining and they want to check out the YouTube video, just send them over there. The link will be of course all over our LinkedIn and our Rogii.com and the geosteeringworldcup.com page.
Absolutely. Joan's asking when the solo training starts. So if you're referring to the trainers, the simulator trainers, we think it'll be open on Monday, John. You'll receive an email.
Yep, and it'll be an email with the link, and of course, everything will be. Melina will be sending everything out to everybody and staying on top of it. Yeah, that's all I got. Good luck, John. I hope you. Last year you did well, and let's see if this year you can bring it on home. All right.